The Machiavellian trick to gain power and wealth instantly. Stoicism, the hidden truth. Listen carefully, because what I'm about to reveal will completely change how you see power, wealth, and human nature itself. For centuries, this knowledge has been deliberately hidden from the masses, protected by those who understood its devastating potential. Today, you're about to discover why 99% of people remain powerless and poor, while the 1% seem to effortlessly accumulate wealth and influence as if they possessed some secret manual to life itself. Before we continue, I need you to understand something crucial. This isn't just another motivational video filled with empty platitudes and feel-good nonsense. What you're about to learn combines the ruthless pragmatism of Niccolo Machiavelli with the unshakable mental fortress of Stoic philosophy. This fusion creates something so powerful that those who master it become virtually unstoppable in their pursuit of success. But here's the catch. Most people who discover this information are too weak, too conditioned by society's lies to actually implement what they learn. The question is, are you different? Are you ready to embrace truths that might make you uncomfortable, but will ultimately set you free? The dangerous discovery. Let me tell you about Marcus, a middle manager at a Fortune 500 company who stumbled upon these principles by accident. For 15 years, he had played by the rules, worked harder than everyone else, stayed late, arrived early, and yet watched as less talented, less dedicated colleagues climbed the corporate ladder while he remained stuck in the same position. His breaking point came during a company restructuring when a 25-year-old MBA graduate with no experience became his boss. That night, Marcus made a decision that would transform his life forever. He decided to stop playing by the rules that society had taught him and start playing by the rules that actually govern success. What Marcus discovered in his research was shocking. The most successful people throughout history, from ancient Roman emperors to modern billionaires, all shared certain behavioral patterns that directly contradicted what we're taught about morality, hard work, and fairness. These patterns weren't random. They were deliberate strategies refined over millennia and passed down through exclusive circles of power. Marcus realized that while the masses were being fed stories about honesty, transparency, and putting others first, the elite were operating from an entirely different playbook. The Machiavellian Foundation. Niccolo Machiavelli wrote The Prince in 1513, but his insights into human nature and power dynamics remain more relevant today than ever before. The reason most people misunderstand Machiavelli is because they've been conditioned to view his teachings through a moral lens rather than a practical one. Machiavelli wasn't concerned with being good or evil. He was concerned with being effective. He understood that in the real world, the person who wins isn't necessarily the most virtuous, the hardest working, or even the most talented. The person who wins is the one who understands how power actually works and isn't afraid to use that knowledge. The first Machiavellian principle you must internalize is this: appearance is more important than reality. This might sound cynical, but look around you. How many incompetent people do you know in positions of power? How many brilliant, hard-working individuals do you know who are struggling? The difference isn't talent or effort, it's perception management. The successful understand that humans are emotional creatures who make decisions based on feelings and impressions rather than facts and logic. They know that controlling how others perceive you is infinitely more valuable than actually being what you appear to be. Consider the case of Elizabeth Holmes, the founder of Theranos. For years, she convinced investors, board members, and the media that she had revolutionized blood testing technology. She raised over $900 million and was valued at $4.5 billion at her peak. The technology never worked. It was all perception, carefully crafted and maintained through a combination of confidence, storytelling, and strategic relationship building. While I'm not advocating fraud, the lesson here is undeniable. Perception creates reality in the human world. The Stoic armor. But here's where most Machiavellian practitioners fail. They master the external game, but neglect the internal fortress. This is where Stoicism becomes essential. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, understood something that pure Machiavellians miss. Without inner strength and emotional control, all external power is fragile and temporary. The Stoics developed a system of mental conditioning that makes you psychologically invulnerable to the chaos and uncertainty that comes with playing power games. The Stoic principle of amor fati, loving your fate, is particularly powerful when combined with Machiavellian strategy. It means accepting whatever happens as necessary for your growth and advancement. When you're playing strategic games in business or relationships, setbacks are inevitable. Most people are destroyed by these setbacks because they take them personally. They see failure as a reflection of their worth. The Stoic Machiavellian practitioner sees failure as data, as information about what doesn't work, as an opportunity to refine their approach. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This principle becomes a superpower when applied to modern life. While others are reactive, emotional, and predictable, you become calm, strategic, and impossible to read. You develop what I call strategic equanimity, the ability to remain completely composed while executing complex manipulation strategies. The power of strategic deception now. Let's address the elephant in the room: deception. Society tells you that honesty is always the best policy, but this is itself a deception designed to keep you vulnerable and exploitable. The truth is that strategic deception is not only acceptable, but necessary for success in a competitive world. This doesn't mean lying constantly or being untrustworthy. It means understanding when complete transparency serves you and when it doesn't. Robert Greene, in his book, The 48 Laws of Power, articulates this perfectly with Law 3, conceal your intentions. The moment people know what you want, they gain power over you. They can block your path, demand a higher price, or use your desires against you. This is why successful negotiators never reveal their true position, why poker players wear sunglasses, and why billionaires rarely discuss their actual wealth. Let me give you a practical example. Sarah was a software engineer at a tech startup. She discovered that the company was planning to expand into artificial intelligence, a field she had been secretly studying for 2 years. Instead of immediately revealing her expertise, she waited. She let others volunteer for the project and struggle with the basics. Then, at a critical moment when the project was about to fail, she casually mentioned a solution during a meeting. The CEO was impressed and asked her to elaborate. Sarah revealed just enough knowledge to solve the immediate problem, but held back the depth of her expertise. Over the next 6 months, she became indispensable to the AI project, receiving 3 promotions and a 200% salary increase. Had she revealed her knowledge immediately, she would have been assigned to the project at her current level with no leverage for advancement. The hierarchy. Hack understanding and exploiting hierarchical structures is perhaps the most immediately applicable Machiavellian technique. Every organization, every social group, every human system has a hierarchy, whether admitted or not. Most people make the fatal mistake of trying to climb hierarchies step by step, rung by rung. The Machiavellian approach is to identify the key power brokers and attach yourself to them directly. This technique, which I call strategic parasitism, involves making yourself useful to those already in power while simultaneously building your own power base. It's not about being a sycophant or a yes man. It's about becoming genuinely valuable to powerful people while maintaining your independence and building your own network. The key is to never become completely dependent on any single source of power. James, a recent college graduate, joined a major consulting firm. Instead of focusing on impressing his immediate supervisor, like his peers, he identified the three partners who controlled the most lucrative accounts. He studied their interests, their communication styles, their professional challenges. He then positioned himself to accidentally encounter them, always with valuable insights or connections to offer. Within 18 months, while his peers were still competing for senior analyst positions, James was hand-picked by a partner to lead a new division. His former peers, many of whom were technically more qualified, now reported to him. The emotional mastery protocol, the fusion of Stoicism and Machiavellianism, reaches its apex in emotional mastery. Emotions are the enemy of strategic thinking. They cloud judgment, reveal vulnerabilities, and make you predictable. The Stoics understood this, which is why they developed sophisticated techniques for emotional regulation. When you combine this with Machiavellian strategy, you become capable of what I call emotional arbitrage, profiting from the emotional reactions of others while remaining completely composed yourself. Consider the financial markets. The most successful traders aren't necessarily the smartest or the best informed. They're the ones who can remain calm when everyone else is panicking. Warren Buffett's famous quote, "Be fearful when others are greedy and greedy when others are fearful," is essentially a Stoic Machiavellian principle. It recognizes that human emotions create predictable patterns that can be exploited for profit. This principle extends far beyond finance. In negotiations, the person who cares less has more power. In relationships, the person who needs less has more control. In conflicts, the person who remains calm while their opponent becomes emotional almost always wins. This isn't about being cold or heartless. It's about choosing when and how to express emotions strategically, rather than being controlled by them. The network multiplication effect power in the modern world isn't about individual strength. It's about network effects. The Machiavellian understands that relationships are investments that can yield exponential returns. But here's what most people get wrong about networking. They think it's about collecting business cards or LinkedIn connections. Real networking is about creating a web of mutual benefit where your success becomes intertwined with the success of others. The key is what I call selective generosity. You don't help everyone equally. You identify individuals who are likely to accumulate power and success, and you invest in them early before they need you. This creates a debt of gratitude that becomes more valuable as they rise. It's not manipulation, it's strategic relationship building. Michael, a struggling entrepreneur, understood this principle intuitively. Instead of chasing investors and customers, he started a monthly dinner for ambitious people in his city. He carefully curated the guest list, bringing together individuals from different industries who could benefit from knowing each other. He asked for nothing in return, simply facilitating connections. Within 2 years, his dinner group included 3 CEOs, 2 venture capitalists, and a dozen successful entrepreneurs. When Michael finally launched his startup, he had a built-in network of advisors, investors, and customers. His company reached a $10 million valuation in its first year, not because of the product, but because of the network. The perception architecture. Creating and maintaining the right perception requires what I call perception architecture, the deliberate construction of how others see and think about you. This goes far beyond personal branding. It's about creating a consistent narrative across all touchpoints that positions you as powerful, valuable, and slightly mysterious. The first element of perception architecture is scarcity. Humans value what is rare and difficult to obtain. If you're always available, always eager, always accommodating, you signal low value. The Machiavellian Stoic practitioner understands that strategic unavailability increases desirability. This doesn't mean being rude or unresponsive. It means being selective about where you invest your time and attention. The second element is competence signaling. Most people try to prove their competence by talking about their achievements. This is amateur hour. True competence signaling is subtle and indirect. It's about demonstrating knowledge without lecturing, solving problems without seeking credit, and letting others discover your abilities rather than announcing them. The third element is strategic mystery. Humans are naturally curious about what they don't fully understand. By maintaining some element of mystery about yourself, your full capabilities, your resources, your connections, you create an aura of hidden power. People will often assume you have more than you actually do, simply because they can't see the full picture. The value extraction system, one of the most powerful Machiavellian concepts, is understanding that value is subjective and can be created or destroyed through perception. The same product, service, or person can be perceived as worthless or priceless, depending on how it's presented. This understanding allows you to extract maximum value from every situation and relationship. Consider luxury brands. A Hermes handbag costs $10,000, not because it costs anywhere near that to produce, but because the brand has created a perception of exclusivity and status. The bag becomes a symbol, and people pay for the symbol, not the leather and stitching. This same principle applies to personal positioning. You can be the Walmart of your field, high volume, low margin, easily replaceable. Or you can be the Hermes, exclusive, expensive, and highly desired. David was a freelance graphic designer charging $50 per hour and struggling to pay rent. He realized he was positioning himself as a commodity. He rebranded himself as a brand transformation specialist, raised his rates to $500 per hour, and became more selective about clients. He created case studies showing how his designs had contributed to his clients' business growth. He started rejecting potential clients who didn't meet his criteria. Within 6 months, he was earning more working 10 hours per week than he had previously earned working 50 hours. Nothing about his actual skills changed, only the perception of his value. The influence amplification method. Influence isn't about convincing people. It's about creating conditions where people convince themselves. The Machiavellian Stoic practitioner understands that direct persuasion often triggers resistance, while indirect influence bypasses psychological defenses entirely. The technique involves what psychologists call priming and anchoring. You plant ideas subtly and repeatedly until they take root in the other person's mind as their own thoughts. You create reference points that make your desired outcome seem reasonable and inevitable. This isn't about manipulation in the negative sense. It's about understanding how human decision-making actually works and using that understanding strategically. Lisa was a marketing director who wanted to implement a radical new strategy that she knew her conservative board would reject if presented directly. Instead of proposing her idea, she began planting seeds. In casual conversations, she would mention articles about companies that had succeeded with similar strategies. She invited a speaker to a company event who happened to advocate for approaches aligned with her vision. She created small pilot programs that demonstrated success without asking for permission. By the time she formally presented her strategy to the board, they thought it was their idea. The proposal passed unanimously. The resource maximization principle. The Stoics taught that we should focus only on what is within our control. The Machiavellians taught that we should maximize our control over resources. The combination creates a powerful framework for resource accumulation and protection. You accept what you cannot control while strategically expanding what you can control. Most people think of resources only in terms of money. But the Machiavellian Stoic practitioner understands that there are multiple forms of capital: financial, social, cultural, intellectual, and temporal. The key is to constantly convert lower forms of capital into higher forms. Time into knowledge, knowledge into relationships, relationships into opportunities, opportunities into financial capital, and financial capital into more time. This creates what I call the resource spiral, a self-reinforcing cycle where each form of capital generates more of the others. The mistake most people make is focusing on only one form of capital. usually financial, which leaves them vulnerable and limited. The strategic positioning matrix position is everything in the game of power. Where you stand determines what moves are available to you. The Machiavellian Stoic practitioner constantly evaluates and adjusts their position to maximize optionality and minimize vulnerability. This involves understanding three dimensions of positioning. Horizontal, your position relative to peers; vertical, your position in hierarchies; and temporal, your position in time relative to trends and opportunities. Most people only think about vertical positioning, trying to climb the ladder. But horizontal positioning, becoming unique rather than superior, and temporal positioning, being early to emerging. Opportunities often provide better returns with less competition. Ryan was a middle manager at a traditional retail company when he recognized that e-commerce was about to disrupt the industry. Instead of trying to climb the corporate ladder in a dying business model, he positioned himself horizontally by becoming the company's informal expert on digital transformation. He positioned himself temporally by predicting which specific technologies would become critical. When the company finally recognized the need for digital transformation, Ryan was the obvious choice to lead it. He went from middle manager to C-suite executive in 18 months, not by being better at the old game, but by positioning himself for the new game. The reputation fortress. Your reputation is your most valuable asset, but most people manage it reactively rather than proactively. The Machiavellian Stoic practitioner builds what I call a reputation fortress, a carefully constructed image that is both attractive and defensible. This involves three layers of protection. The first layer is consistency. Your public actions and statements must align with your constructed image. Any inconsistency creates vulnerability. The second layer is documentation. In the digital age, everything is recorded. The smart practitioner creates a deliberate digital footprint that supports their desired reputation. The third layer is allies. Having others defend your reputation is far more powerful than defending it yourself. But here's the Stoic twist. While you strategically build and protect your reputation, you must remain internally detached from it. Your reputation is a tool, not your identity. This detachment allows you to adapt your reputation as circumstances change without experiencing an identity crisis. The conflict. Navigation system conflict is inevitable when you're playing power games, but most people handle conflict emotionally rather than strategically. The Machiavellian Stoic practitioner sees conflict as an opportunity to demonstrate superiority and gain advantage. The key is what I call asymmetric warfare. Never fight on your opponent's terms. If they want a public confrontation, you respond privately. If they attack your strengths, you target their weaknesses. If they expect resistance, you offer unexpected cooperation that throws them off balance. Jennifer was a senior executive facing a hostile takeover attempt led by a rival who had been undermining her for months. Instead of fighting back directly, she implemented asymmetric warfare. She publicly praised her rival's ideas while privately documenting his mistakes. She offered to collaborate on projects where she knew he would fail. She built alliances with his supporters by addressing their concerns better than he did. When the board made their decision, Jennifer not only survived the takeover attempt, but was promoted to CEO. Her rival, confused by her unexpected responses, had defeated himself. The opportunity recognition algorithm. Opportunities are not random. They follow patterns. The Machiavellian Stoic practitioner develops what I call an opportunity recognition algorithm, a systematic way of identifying and evaluating potential advantages before others see them. This involves monitoring multiple data streams, industry trends, personnel change, regulatory shifts, technological developments, and social movements. But data alone isn't enough. You need a framework for processing this information. The framework involves three questions. What is changing? Who benefits from this change? How can I position myself to capture some of that benefit? The Stoic element adds patience and preparation. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What stands in the way becomes the way." Often, the best opportunities come disguised as problems. While others complain about obstacles, the practitioner sees them as filters that eliminate competition. The leverage creation system. Leverage is the ability to achieve maximum output with minimum input. It's the difference between working hard and working smart. The Machiavellian Stoic practitioner constantly seeks to create and accumulate leverage in all areas of life. Financial leverage is the most obvious form, using borrowed money to amplify returns. But there are many other forms. Technological leverage, using tools and systems to multiply your effort. Relationship leverage, using other people's resources and connections. Knowledge leverage, applying specialized information for advantage. And temporal leverage, using timing to maximize impact. The key is to stack multiple forms of leverage. When you combine financial leverage with relationship leverage and knowledge leverage, your power multiplies exponentially. This is how individuals with modest resources can compete with large organizations. The psychological warfare tactics, understanding human psychology, is the ultimate weapon in the Machiavellian arsenal. The Stoic discipline prevents you from falling victim to the same psychological tactics you employ. This creates an asymmetric advantage where you can influence others while remaining immune to influence yourself. The fundamental principle is that humans are not rational actors. They are rationalizing actors. They make decisions based on emotion and then create logical explanations after the fact. Once you understand this, you stop trying to convince people with logic and start creating emotional experiences that lead them to your desired conclusion. This involves techniques like social proof, showing that others have already made the decision you want them to make. Loss aversion, making them fear missing out more than they desire gaining. And commitment consistency, getting small commitments that lead to larger ones. The exit strategy architecture. Every Machiavellian move should include an exit strategy. This isn't pessimism, it's strategic thinking. The Stoic principle of negative visualization, imagining what could go wrong, combined with Machiavellian contingency planning, creates robust strategies that work regardless of outcomes. This means never becoming so committed to any single path that you can't change direction. It means maintaining multiple options at all times. It means building relationships and resources that can be activated if your primary strategy fails. The amateur goes all in on a single bet. The professional always has a backup plan and a backup to the backup. The transformation moment. Now we reach the critical juncture, the moment where knowledge must transform into action. You've learned the principles, understood the strategies, and seen the examples. But here's the brutal truth. 99% of people who consume this information will do nothing with it. They'll feel inspired for a few hours, maybe even a few days, and then return to their old patterns. Why? Because change is uncomfortable. Because applying these principles requires you to acknowledge uncomfortable truths about human nature, including your own. Because it's easier to remain a victim of circumstances than to take responsibility for creating your own reality. But you're still reading, which means you might be part of the 1% who actually implements what they learn. You might be ready to stop playing by rules that were designed to keep you mediocre. You might be prepared to embrace the dark arts of power while maintaining the philosophical discipline to use them wisely. The implementation protocol knowledge without action is worthless. Here's your specific implementation protocol for the next 30 days. Week 1, observation and assessment. Stop trying to change anything. Simply observe the power dynamics around you. Watch how successful people in your environment operate. Notice the difference between what they say and what they do. Identify the hidden hierarchies and unspoken rules that govern your professional and social environments. Week 2, perception experimentation. Start small experiments with perception management. Change one element of how you present yourself and observe the reactions. Practice strategic unavailability. Test the power of silence in conversations. Document the responses you get when you signal higher status versus lower status. Week 3. Relationship mapping. Create a detailed map of your relationship network. Identify who has power, who is accumulating power, and who is losing power. Determine where you can add value to rising powers. Begin the process of selective generosity with 3 carefully chosen individuals. Week 4. Strategic positioning. Based on your observations and experiments, make one significant positioning move. This could be volunteering for a high-visibility project, establishing yourself as an expert in an emerging area, or strategically aligning yourself with a rising power broker. The multiplication effect. Here's what most people don't understand about power and wealth. They don't grow linearly, they grow exponentially. Once you reach a certain threshold of power, it becomes self-reinforcing. Money makes money. Connections create connections. Success breeds success. The challenge is reaching that initial threshold. This is where the combination of Machiavellian strategy and Stoic discipline becomes crucial. The Machiavellian tactics get you to the threshold faster, while the Stoic discipline ensures you don't self-destruct on the way. Think about it. Every billionaire, every powerful politician, every influential thought leader started from zero. The difference between them and everyone else isn't talent or luck. It's the willingness to play by the real rules rather than the official rules. It's the courage to embrace uncomfortable truths about human nature. It's the discipline to execute consistently even when results aren't immediate. The warning: before you embark on this path, understand the cost. Power and wealth come with isolation. The more successful you become, the harder it becomes to trust others' motives. Every relationship becomes potentially transactional. Every friendship carries the question, do they like me or what I can do for them? This is where the Stoic philosophy becomes essential. It provides the internal validation that external success can never deliver. It reminds you that power and wealth are tools, not goals. It keeps you grounded when everyone around you is trying to inflate your ego for their own purposes. Marcus knew this cost when he began his transformation. He lost friends who couldn't handle his success. He faced criticism from family members who preferred the old, predictable version of him. He had moments of doubt where he wondered if the game was worth playing, but he also discovered something profound. When you stop seeking approval and start seeking power, you become free. Free from others' opinions, free from societal constraints, free to create your own reality. And paradoxically, this freedom makes you more attractive to others. People are drawn to those who don't need them. The ultimate choice: you now stand at a crossroads. You can close this video, forget what you've learned, and continue living according to society's rules. You can remain one of the masses, complaining about unfairness while doing nothing to change your circumstances. You can keep believing that hard work and good intentions are enough to succeed in a world that rewards strategy and positioning. Or you can make a different choice. You can accept that the world operates according to power dynamics that most people refuse to acknowledge. You can begin implementing the strategies that have created every fortune and built every empire throughout history. You can join the ranks of those who understand that morality and effectiveness are separate considerations, and that you can be both ethical and strategic. The hidden society throughout history, there have been informal networks of individuals who understood these principles. They didn't advertise their knowledge or recruit openly. They recognized each other through subtle signals, a certain way of speaking, a particular approach to problems, a specific type of strategic thinking. By understanding and implementing these principles, you begin to enter this hidden society. You'll start to recognize others who operate by the same playbook. You'll find that doors open that were previously closed. Opportunities appear that were previously invisible. This isn't magic or conspiracy. It's simply the result of operating at a different level of strategic sophistication. The acceleration principle once. you begin implementing these strategies, you'll notice something remarkable. The rate of change accelerates. The first promotion might take a year, the second 6 months, the third 3 months. The first $10,000 might take months to accumulate, the next $10,000 weeks, the one after that days. This acceleration happens because each success provides resources and knowledge that make the next success easier. It's a compound effect that most people never experience because they give up before reaching the inflection point. They work linearly in a world that rewards exponentially. The Stoic discipline keeps you patient during the slow initial phase. The Machiavellian strategy ensures you're building toward the inflection point, rather than just working hard without direction. Together, they create unstoppable momentum. The master's secret. Let me share with you the ultimate secret that separates masters from amateurs in the game of power. The best players make it look effortless. They accumulate power and wealth while appearing to barely try. This isn't because it's actually easy for them. It's because they understand that visible effort signals weakness. Think about the most powerful people you know. They rarely seem stressed or overwhelmed. They project an aura of calm control even in chaos. This is deliberate. They understand that confidence is a currency more valuable than money. By appearing to achieve success effortlessly, they create a mystique that attracts even more success. This is why the Stoic component is so critical. It's not enough to strategize like Machiavelli. You must maintain composure like Marcus Aurelius. The combination creates an almost supernatural appearance of competence that draws opportunities and allies magnetically. The future architecture. The principles I've shared aren't just about gaining power and wealth in the current system. They're about positioning yourself for the future. The world is changing rapidly. Traditional career paths are disappearing. New forms of power are emerging. Those who understand strategic positioning will thrive. Those who don't will be left behind. Artificial intelligence, blockchain, biotechnology, virtual reality. These aren't just technologies. They're shift in power structures. The Machiavellian Stoic practitioner doesn't just adapt to these changes. They position themselves to profit from them. They're already building relationships in emerging industries, acquiring knowledge in future critical areas, and creating optionality for multiple scenarios. The final test, here's how you'll know if you're ready for this path, your reaction to this information. If you're offended by the idea of strategic manipulation, if you believe that merit alone should determine success, if you think that being a good person is enough to get ahead, then you're not ready. Stay in the matrix. It's comfortable there. But if you recognize the truth in these words, if you've already observed these dynamics in your own life, if you're tired of watching less deserving people succeed while you struggle, then you're ready. You're ready to stop being a pawn and start being a player. The call to action, this is where I'm supposed to tell you to like and subscribe. But let's be honest. If you need to be told to support content that could transform your life, you're probably not ready for this information anyway. The people who will actually implement these strategies don't need to be asked. They understand value exchange intuitively. However, if you've made it this far, you've demonstrated unusual persistence and focus. These are the qualities that separate potential players from permanent spectators. The question now is what you'll do with this information. Will you bookmark this video and never watch it again? Will you feel motivated for a few hours and then return to your routine? Or will you be one of the rare individuals who actually begins implementing these strategies immediately? The secret bonus for those still reading is a bonus insight that I don't share publicly. The biggest opportunity in the modern world is the arbitrage between perception and reality in the digital age. Online, you can create any perception you want. You can appear to be anywhere, know anyone, have any expertise. This isn't about deception. It's about strategic presentation. A single viral post can create more opportunity than a decade of traditional networking. A carefully crafted online presence can generate more income than a prestigious degree. A strategic personal brand can accumulate more power than a corporate title. But most people use social media for entertainment rather than empire building. The closing revelation, as we conclude this journey into the depths of power and strategy, remember this: everything I've shared is morally neutral. These are tools, like a knife that can be used to prepare a meal or commit a crime. The ethics are in the application, not the knowledge itself. You can use these principles to climb corporate ladders, build businesses, accumulate wealth, and gain influence. You can also use them to protect yourself from those who would exploit you, to level playing fields that are unfairly tilted, and to create opportunities for others once you've secured your own position. The choice of how to use this power is yours. But first, you must acquire it. Because in a world where everyone is playing power games, whether they admit it or not, choosing not to play doesn't make you moral. It makes you a victim. The Stoics understood that wisdom without power is impotent. The Machiavellians understood that power without wisdom is dangerous. The combination creates something unprecedented, strategic wisdom that can reshape reality according to your will. The ultimate truth. Here's the final truth that ties everything together. The people who rule the world aren't smarter than you. They're not more talented, more hardworking, or more deserving. They simply understand the game better. They've accepted truths that others refuse to acknowledge. They've developed capabilities that others refuse to cultivate. You now have the same information they have. The same strategies that built their empires are now available to you. The only difference between you and them is execution. They acted on this knowledge. Will you? The clock is ticking. Every day you delay is a day your competition gets further ahead. Every moment you hesitate is a moment someone else seizes. The world doesn't wait for you to be ready. It rewards those who act despite uncertainty. The transformation begins if you've absorbed this information properly. You're already different from when you started reading. You can't unsee what you've seen. You can't unlearn what you've learned. The question isn't whether you'll change, but how you'll direct that change. Some of you will use this knowledge destructively, creating success at others' expense. Some will use it constructively, building empires that elevate everyone involved. Some will use it defensively, protecting themselves from exploitation. All are valid choices, but they lead to very different lives. The most successful practitioners combine all three approaches. They build constructively when possible, compete destructively when necessary, and defend constantly against those who would undermine their progress. This flexibility, guided by Stoic wisdom and executed with Machiavellian precision, creates unstoppable momentum toward whatever goals you choose. The secret path forward. For those who are serious about implementing these principles, here's your roadmap. Start with one area of your life where you have the most leverage. Maybe it's your career, your business, or your social circle. Apply these principles systematically in that area for 90 days. Document everything. Track what works and what doesn't. Refine your approach based on results, not theory. After 90 days, expand to a second area. Use the confidence and resources gained from your first success to accelerate your second. Continue this expansion until these principles become your default operating system. Within a year, you'll be unrecognizable. Your income will have multiplied. Your influence will have expanded. Your confidence will be unshakable. But more importantly, you'll see the world clearly, without the comfortable delusions that keep most people trapped in mediocrity. The final word: this is not the end, it's the beginning. Every master was once a student. Every empire started with a single decision. Every fortune began with a single dollar. What separates the exceptional from the average is not the starting point, but the trajectory. You now possess knowledge that kings once killed to protect, that businesses spend millions to discover, that most people will never encounter. The question is not whether you're capable of using it, you are. The question is whether you have the courage to begin. The comfortable lie is that success is about fairness, hard work, and good intentions. The uncomfortable truth is that success is about strategy, positioning, and the willingness to play by the real rules rather than the official ones. You've been given the truth. What you do with it will define not just your success, but your life. Choose wisely, act decisively, and remember, in the game of power, the only unforgivable sin is not playing to win. Now the transformation begins. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when you feel ready, now. Because in the time it took you to read this, someone else has already started implementing these strategies. Someone else has already begun their ascent. The only question is, will you join them at the top, or will you watch from below, knowing you had the same opportunity but lacked the courage to seize it? The choice, as always, is yours. But remember, not choosing is itself a choice, and in the game of power, neutrality is just another word for defeat. Welcome to the real world. It's darker than you imagined, but also full of more opportunity than you ever dreamed possible. The weak will condemn these truths. The strong will apply them. Which are you? This is where our journey together ends. But your real journey is just beginning. Take these weapons I've given you. Use them wisely. Build your empire. Claim your power. And remember, the world belongs to those who understand its true nature and have the courage to act on that understanding. The stage is set. The knowledge is transferred. The only thing missing is your action. Will you be one of the few who actually implements these strategies? Or will you be one of the many who knows what to do but lacks the courage to do it? History remembers those who seized power, not those who deserved it. Fortune favors those who take it, not those who wait for it. Success belongs to those who play the game, not those who complain about the rules. Your move